The unbelievable secrets of Jesus' 12 disciples revealed like never before. Few knew what truly happened that night as the shadows danced under the flickering oil lamps. Lasting whispers echoed around the small, crowded room, each disciple gripping an untold story that burned within them. Peter, with his rough hands, gazed towards the dim light, the weight of betrayal heavy on his heart. His eyes darted, reflecting fear and doubt. The secrets lingered like a thick fog, ready to engulf anyone who dared to voice them. James, kneeling beside him, trembled. Rumors swirled of a fig tree that withered just by a command. Could Jesus truly harness such power? Others questioned, yet there they sat, spellbound by his unearthly authority, one miracle after another unraveling before their very eyes. How did a simple carpenter command the storm, bending nature to his will? Was their leader more than just a man? Matthew, the tax collector turned disciple, shifted uneasily. He had collected coins, counted riches, but nothing could compare to the treasure they shared, the knowledge that they walked with the Son of God. His heart raced, a mix of gratitude and dread swirling within. What if they were unworthy? What if they failed? The shadows in the corners of the room seemed to grow darker, hinting at the sinister forces plotting against them, and then there was Thomas, the doubter, known for his whispered skepticism. His voice carried a haunting echo each time he questioned their mission. Did he truly harbor disbelief, or was he the smartest among them, sensing the impending doom? The others shot glances, filled with uncertainty and unease, secrets wrapped around their surroundings. The night air gripped tight with the possibility of chaos. They whispered of the prophecy, of a Savior who would come. Was Jesus that Savior, or would their fate turn into a tragedy written in the stars? As their hearts raced, one final thought staggered through the room: what awaited them outside these walls? The tension crackled like lightning, but the truth lay hidden in darkness, poised to break free at any moment. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The tension in the air was palpable, each disciple caught in a web of their own thoughts as they faced an uncertain future. The room, though filled with warmth from the flickering lamps, felt cold and isolating, as if the very walls conspired against them. Peter's mind wandered, lost in memories of moments spent with Jesus under the vast, starlit sky. What if we had missed the signs? He wondered, the thought gnawing at him. It wasn't just about betrayal. What if their belief had been blind? With every miracle, every teaching, did they truly grasp the weight of his destiny? The questions lingered, dark and heavy like the clouds before a storm. Meanwhile, James sought solace in recalling the times they shared laughter and lessons, the stories Jesus told that painted vivid futures of hope and redemption. Yet, it was the darker tales that clung to his heart, stories of prophets, trials, and looming peril. What does it mean if he is the Messiah? He pondered. Would their lives change forever, or were they merely participants in a tragic play that had long been written? Matthew observed the tension among them, his past as a collector of money now dwarfed by this collection of emotions and fears. Each man was an enigma, bound together by faith yet pulled apart by doubt. He longed for clarity, but the murky depths of uncertainty remained. How does one who has lived in shadows now bring forth light? He asked silently, wishing he could decipher the mysteries that hovered in the air like incense. Further away, Thomas shifted restlessly. His mind, ever the skeptic, weighed the miracles against the price they seemed to evoke. Were the signs enough to lean into faith, or were they mere illusions, crafted to distract from the encircling danger? Would belief shatter under the weight of reality? He mused in contemplation. If he voiced his thoughts, what would it mean for the fragile bond they shared? As daylight slipped further from reach, the whispers in the room turned to a cacophony of unspoken fears. Would they stand firm in the storm that they sensed brewing? Did faith mean standing unwavering amidst chaos, or did it also require questioning the very essence of what they believed? It was then that the door creaked softly. All heads turned, hearts stilled. Was this the arrival of impending doom they sensed, or could it be a sign of hope? Each disciple held their breath, unity in uncertainty, all wrestling with the mysteries multiplying in the shadows. As the stillness hung over them, a heavy realization washed over Peter. Could betrayal be the key to understanding him? He thought. What if it did not signal the end, but a beginning that they had yet to grasp? The deeper they pondered, the more complex the tapestry became, interwoven with dread, hope, and something ineffably divine. What awaited them outside was still a mystery, and within, a pressing question grew louder. Would true understanding of their leader come through darkness, or was there a light within the storm they had yet to discover? As the door creaked open with a subtle, almost reverent groan, the atmosphere thickened, a myriad of emotions surfacing in the hearts of the disciples. All eyes fell upon the shadowy figure that entered. It was John, his brow furrowed, urgency woven into his very being. "Brothers," he whispered, the air surrounding him electric with unvoiced concerns and revelations. "That I have seen him," John continued, his voice trembling slightly as hope and fear mingled within it. "He spoke to me this very night, amidst the olive groves." He knew what was to come. The disciples leaned in, a mixture of anticipation and dread threading through their collective being. "He said that we should prepare ourselves, for darkness is not to be feared but understood." In that moment, it seemed a sliver of light broke through the veil of their uncertainty. Peter's heart leaped at John's words, but a shadow flickered within him, igniting doubt. "How can we trust what we cannot see?" he urged, his voice cracking slightly as vulnerability wrapped around his bravado. "What if this is a trick of the heart, another deception?" John's gaze caught Peter's, sincere and impassioned. "Perhaps the greatest truth lies in what remains unseen. He is teaching us to look beyond the shadow of the cross, beyond anguish, to the new life it promises. But we must be willing to embrace the tension of our fears." His conviction, though stirring, brought forth a storm of inner conflict among the group. James, compelled by curiosity, inquired, "What of the signs, John? Should they not guide our understanding?" He recalled the miracle of the loaves and fishes, a moment where scarcity transformed into abundance. Are we to find meaning in these wonders amidst such uncertainty, or have they now become the fabric of our delusions? Matthew observed the expressions around him, each one a reflection of their shared struggles. John speaks of light amid darkness. Could this not also be a time of reckoning for each of us? He contemplated the weight of their destinies, unfurling like the sails of their storm-tossed boats. If we lean into our doubts, will they reveal the stark truths hidden beneath? Thomas, unable to remain silent any longer, interjected, "What if our faith is being tested by the very depths of our questions?" His skepticism pulsed through the air. Are we not called to examine, to seek clarity in every shadow? Could it be that true faith lies in acceptance of doubt? A silence fell over the room, contemplative and heavy. The flame flickering within the lamp began to bend with the draught, casting shadows that danced wildly across the walls, an embodiment of their internal chaos. With each blink, the flickering embers echoed their uncertainty. What were they to do with predictions of betrayal, of suffering? In the heart of their gathering, a thought burgeoned within Peter, an unsettling yet profound epiphany. Could the betrayal and the darkness that we fear be intertwined with an unseen blessing? He pondered aloud, glancing at the faces of his companions, each reflecting a spectrum of emotions, shadows and light battling within their hearts. "Perhaps," James echoed softly, his voice a soothing balm against the rising tide of anxiety, "we are on the brink of something momentous." The deeper our understanding of him, the more we uncover the layers cloaked in divine purpose. As the disciples settled into the tension of this collective contemplation, the uncertainty still loomed large. They understood that the journey ahead would not be easy, nor would it provide the comfort they longed for. Yet it was becoming clear that what lay ahead was laden with revelations that could alter the very fabric of their faith and purpose. The flickering flames cast one last captivating dance, and in their warmth lingered a haunting question, echoed softly in their hearts. In seeking the light of understanding, have we opened ourselves to the profound mysteries that lie beyond our fears? In the stillness of the room, the air was thick with contemplation, as each disciple grappled with their thoughts, wrestling with both doubt and intimacy in their connection to the one they called teacher. The flickering light seemed to mirror their shifting beliefs, a divine interplay between illumination and shadow that echoed the dual nature of the faith they strove to embody. Amidst this kaleidoscope of emotions, John's voice broke the silence once more, solemn yet resolute. "Brothers, we have witnessed his miracles, seen the dead rise, and the blind receive their sight. But perhaps the greatest miracle lies not in the miracles themselves, but in what they reveal about the nature of our hearts." Matthew, still ruminating on the weight of doubt and faith, now leaned forward, his brow furrowed with curiosity. "What do you mean by that, John? Are we to find understanding in our own hearts, in the very wounds we fear?" He paused, eyes flickering with an unsteady light. "Do our deepest fears carve a path toward the light of faith?" "Indeed, Matthew," John replied with a knowing nod. He often spoke in parables, drawing us to dig deeper not just into the stories, but into ourselves. Each miracle, each teaching was a mirror reflecting our struggle with their true meaning. The challenges we face are not merely external, they draw upon the wells within us. James, heartened by John's fervor, continued, "But how do we prepare for the darkness he foretells? How do we hold on to that light when betrayal and despair lay on the horizon?" "Perhaps," Thomas interjected hesitantly, "this preparation is not just about bracing for stormy waters but about delving into the depths of our convictions. Are we shadowed by fear, or do we see the potential of transformation?" The exploration of this question left a ripple of doubt and intrigue, as Thomas weighed the existence of faith amidst uncertainty. Peter, emboldened by this dialogue, felt an awakening light within. What if we serve as vessels for this teaching? If we do not fear the darkness, perhaps we can become beacons for those trembling in their own uncertainties. Could our experiences of betrayal, heartache, and faith reveal the profound mercy that awaits on the other side? With each remark, hearts began to mend slightly, weaving a tapestry of strength from their vulnerability. The disciples reflected on their previous encounters with Jesus, the call to fish for people, the peace that calms storms, the bread broken and shared. Each moment felt imbued with layers, just as their discussion spoke to the complexities of faith. In that moment, a question held prominence in their hearts: could they see hope in desolation, the possibility of grace in failure? As they contemplated their path forward, an image came to John's mind, one of a garden, rich with promise yet soaked in struggle. The image bloomed like a flower through stone. James broke the silence once more, a gentle resolve emanating from him. In entering Gethsemane, we may find the courage to wrestle with our convictions. Our faith may bear fruit even amidst trials. The real test lies in embracing the ambiguities of servant leadership. If we can remain true to ourselves and to Him, perhaps we can withstand whatever lies ahead. The shadows in the room seemed to recede slightly as they embraced this perspective, each disciple harnessing the flickered flame of understanding. Yet, as they visualized the journey that awaited them, lingering doubts still danced on the edges of their thoughts. There remained an undeniable weight on their hearts, shrouded in the mystery of their evolving relationship with Jesus. As the hour deepened, the flame flickered once more, casting fleeting images on the walls, revealing faces of doubt and hope alike. In that shared space, the final reflection floated softly among them: could it be that the truest revelations are the ones yet to come, threading through the fabric of their shared destinies, waiting to unfold beneath the weight of their unspoken fears? The stillness was punctuated by the rustling of garments as the disciples shifted, each caught in their intermingled web of thoughts, insecurities, and burgeoning resolve. With just a candle flickering at the center of their circle, shadows danced on the waltz, a ballet of light and darkness that echoed their emotional turbulence. Peter's voice broke the reverie, a faint tremor revealing the unease he felt. What if this darkness we are talking about is not just the events looming over us? What if it is embodied within each of us? Have we truly come to terms with our own shadows? He looked around, searching each face for signs of agreement. This betrayal we anticipate, can it be that it resides in our hearts already, waiting for our fear to unleash it? Matthew nodded, recalling their journey. I have felt it, this subtle betrayal of trust, in my doubt. Is it not a betrayal of his teachings to waver when faced with a challenge? If the light he has shared with us is to illuminate our paths, how can we hold steadfast when shadows threaten to consume us? His fervent inquiries inspired contemplation amongst them, transforming their doubts into a deeper inquiry. Maybe it's not about having unyielding faith, John chimed in thoughtfully, but about understanding that faith can coexist with doubt. Consider how often he encouraged us to question, to seek understanding. Was not the essence of faith wrapped in an honest grappling with our uncertainties? His eyes gleamed with the notion that vulnerability might yield strength. James leaned forward, the flickering flame reflecting a newfound determination within him. Could it be possible that this very darkness we dread is a path to uncovering his secrets? Perhaps through our own struggles, we might reflect upon what he truly embodies: a light amid the shadows, a love that conquers fear. Tension began to transform into shared reflection. They could feel an invisible thread drawing them together, binding their fears and convictions into a collective tapestry. The doubts, once suffocating, now seemed rich with potential for revelation. As the night deepened, a heavy silence took hold once more. But within it lay the promise of understanding. Thomas finally broke this stillness, his voice low but firm. What can we uncover in our hearts if we allow these vulnerabilities to surface? What if our most profound insights arise not when we stand bold against our fears but when we surrender to them, acknowledging our frail human condition? Maybe, mused Peter, the brilliance of his teachings transcends being absolute certainties. It's a spectrum of experiences: the wounds and triumphs, the shadows and the light. Every moment we simply embrace is a step toward unveiling the deeper truths he wished us to see. A shroud of silence fell again as this notion rippled through the disciples, resonating deeply within. They began to contemplate the stories they had shared, the teachings they had received, and the fragile moments of faith that lingered in their memories. They realized how intertwined their legacies were with the teachings of Jesus, that every whisper of doubt was an invitation to a larger dialogue about belief and surrender. As the candle burned low, casting deeper shades upon their features, they sensed another heaviness, the call to move beyond contemplation into action. With every fold of their garments and flicker of the flame, they felt an urging to face their fears not merely as obstacles, but as gateways to understanding the essence of the one who had guided them. The closing thought lingered in the air, wrapping around them like a cloak: if we find the courage to explore our own shadows, could this unveiling of truth lead us toward a more profound communion with the light of his Spirit, revealing secrets yet to be discovered? As dawn approached, the first light of daybreak began to seep through the cracks of their sanctuary. The disciples remained in their circle, the weight of the night's revelations pressing upon them like a shroud. The unsettled air was heavy with unspoken thoughts and the remnants of flickering candlelight. Is it not remarkable, mused John, breaking the silence, how the light can seem so distant in the darkest hours? And yet, it always returns, unfaltering. What if we are to mirror that light, carrying it even when shadows loom large? Peter leaned back, pondering John's words. Yes, but what does that mean for us now? If we are to embody this light, how do we prepare our hearts for what lies ahead? For the betrayal recommended upon us? Our understanding of him has shifted. It's no longer a mere following but a deeper engagement, a shared burden. James fervently nodded. Indeed. It's as if we are on the precipice of a great unveiling, and by embracing our vulnerabilities, we might uncover divinely woven truths. Yet, my heart trembles at what it entails. Are we prepared to fully witness what it means to reflect his Spirit? A whisper of wind swept through the room, drawing their attention towards an open window where the sound of footsteps echoed in the distance. The disciples instantly stiffened, instinctively aware that the world outside was beginning to stir. They were aware of what awaited them: a confrontation with the shadows of their existence, the gnawing doubts that had plagued their lives. Matthew, feeling the pull of anxiety gripping his heart, stated, "We have discussed the need to reconcile our fears, but what do we do when faced with an external threat? Are we merely going to reflect within while forgetting the realities outside?" His question trembled between them, charged with urgency. "That we must conjure strength from our doubts to fuel our convictions," Thomas countered calmly. "What is fear if not the gateway to understanding? Can we not step forth confident that each dark moment may lead us deeper into communal understanding of his mission?" from the periphery of the conversation, a new thought began to emerge: a recognition that their purpose required not only personal reflections but also collective action. Peter stood, summoning his courage. Indeed, we begin within, but we must not remain there. The love he shared with us calls us to act. We must continue his work among those who are lost, sharing not just our faith but the raw honesty of our human condition. A wave of urgency washed over them, a call to transform their contemplations into a tangible force for good. This notion ignited a flicker of determination amongst them. Yet, as they shifted from introspection to action, an unsettling question lingered in the recesses of their minds. With the sun now casting a warm glow upon their circle, John turned to the gathered brethren, his eyes searching each of their faces. Before we step into the world, we must ask ourselves this: in cultivating this light within us, will we be ready to accept the shadows we encounter outside? Will we hold on to our truths, even when faced with challenges that threaten to unravel us? The challenge lay in the hands of the disciples as they stood on the threshold of an unfolding mystery. What awaited them in the shadows of the city, and how would their internal struggles manifest in the outside world? With hearts stirred, they prepared for the journey ahead, each step charged with uncertainty and the haunting reflection of their own doubts beckoning them into a destiny intertwined with the one they followed. As the sunlight spilled through the window, illuminating the dust motes floating in the air, the atmosphere shifted amongst the disciples, changing the feel of their gathering. They had spent a night wrestling with thoughts so profound, yet each felt the calling of the day pulling them back from the depths of contemplation to action. Jude, often silent amidst the more vocal companions, took a breath that seemed to come from somewhere deep within. We must not only carry this light among ourselves, but also reach those who walk in the dark, he said gently, yet firmly. His gaze shifted toward the door that connected them to the world beyond. What if our mission requires more than mere words? Could it also involve sacrifice? The thought lingered in the wake of his words, falling heavily upon them. Would their faith demand that they lay down their very lives? How could they muster the strength to assume such a weighty mantle? Remember, Peter retorted, a slight tremor in his voice, he warned us that following him would not be easy. Yet, each moment shared together has been preparation for this calling. His leadership was palpable, yet the uncharted territory before them sent shivers racing down their spines. In the eerie quiet, the city began to awaken, its sounds of life bleeding through the walls, the clamoring of merchants setting up stalls, the laughter of children spilling into the streets, and the occasional calls of the town criers heralding news both good and ill. It seemed a reminder of the duality of their existence, the light in the midst of darkness, joy intertwined with sorrow. James, his brow furrowed in thought, spoke again, this time with an urgency tinged by fear. What if the price of our message is greater than we can bear? How do we navigate betrayal when it comes from within our ranks or even from the heart of our companions? His voice cracked, and the chill of uncertainty spread among them once more, but it was John who found a deeper resilience, a quiet strength residing within his heart. We must not forget the promise we've received: we are not alone in this journey. Even in our doubting moments, his Spirit goes with us, urging us to embody compassion and love. His eyes shimmered, reflecting a faith that had been tested and found true. The air thickened with their intertwined fears and hopes. Each disciple could sense a palpable shift in their collective resolve. They realized that their strength lay in unity, bound by a love that transcended the individual. It was not merely about individual bravery, it was about a commitment to one another and to the message they were carrying. As they gathered their courage and prepared to leave the sanctuary, Thomas, ever the skeptic, posed a final query. When we step out there, he said, gesturing toward the door, how do we ensure that we do not falter under the weight of expectation or turn our backs when trials approach? What if the shadows we face are more daunting than we envisioned? Their hearts quickened at the thought, a shared understanding now forming among them. The unknown loomed large, yet so did the light they hoped to reflect. As they opened the door, a gust of warm air rushed in, whipping through their garments and filling their lungs with the scent of possibility. Perhaps, John reflected quietly before stepping outside, the key lies not in what lies ahead, but in what we hold dear within ourselves. Can we embody unwavering faith in the face of uncertainty? Are we prepared to cling to the light, not just for ourselves, but for those who wander lost in their darkness. As the sun bathed their path in golden hues, they stepped into the day, their hearts heavy with questions, but lit with a flicker of hope. Would they truly bear the light that had been entrusted to them, amidst the inevitable shadows of doubt? And could their journey change not only their fates but the fate of those beyond their circle? The sun climbed higher in the sky as the disciples stepped out into the streets of Jerusalem, where the vibrant energy of the day hummed around them. Fresh waves of laughter intertwined with the distant calls of merchants, creating a backdrop of life that felt both invigorating and daunting. Each of them felt the weight of purpose pressing on their shoulders, along with the unspoken fears that trailed behind like shadows. As they walked in silence for a moment, the light seemed to dance upon their skin, mingling with the dust that swirled around their feet. It was in this quietude that Matthew broke the stillness, his voice tinged with reflection. Perhaps the answer to our worries lies not only in what we can give but also in what we can receive. The others turned to him, their brows slightly furrowed in curiosity. "What do you mean?" asked Peter, tilting his head as he considered the weight of Matthew's words. "When he was with us," Matthew continued, his gaze fixed on the cobblestones ahead, "he showed us how to love radically. And maybe that radical love is as much a gift to ourselves as it is to others. In our vulnerability, we find strength. In receiving, we offer more," James interjected, his face brightening at the thought. "So you believe that allowing ourselves to accept help, and love, to be cared for, that reshapes how we serve?" "Exactly," Matthew affirmed, encouraged by their engagement. "By being open to the connections we create, we become an even greater source of light. Our mission isn't solely about sacrificing, it's about becoming a part of the very fabric of humanity." As they moved further into the busy streets, they found themselves surrounded by throngs of people, faces young and old, each etched with their own stories of hope, despair, joy, and fear. Something stirred within them, a deepening realization each person they passed carried a light of their own, obscured perhaps by doubt or pain, but undeniably present. Thomas breathed in sharply, his eyes widening as a young girl stumbled near a vendor. She was slightly older than a toddler, her face streaked with dirt, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears as she reached for a piece of bread, only to be ignored. "How do we reflect that divine love to the very least of these?" he mused quietly, an urgency creeping into his tone. "By seeing them as whole," replied John, stepping forward with a sense of purpose. "Not merely as lost souls but as individuals who reflect the divine image. Our light shines brighter when we acknowledge and uplift their inherent value." His heart raced with empathy, mingled with anticipation of what they might accomplish together. While he spoke, a thought struck Peter. What if, instead of feeling burdened by expectation, we allow each interaction with those we meet to reflect the journey we've traveled together? Is it not an opportunity to allow our vulnerability, faith, and compassion to intertwine in a tapestry of hope, like threads in a garment, Jude added thoughtfully, woven together by our shared experiences? The fabric of connection makes us stronger, for our mission becomes less about us and more about collective endeavor. The sun shone brighter, casting radiant shadows upon their path as they continued onward, invigorated by the conversation. Yet as they moved deeper into the throng, they began to confront the reality of their fears, not just for themselves but for each other. Would their bonds hold firm against the trials they were yet to face? Could their faith withstand betrayal or darkness that loomed just out of view? They paused at an intersection, the breath of the crowd swirling around them, a congregation of souls looking for affirmation. As an elderly man fell to the ground, his hand outstretched, a collective urge surged through them, a desire to reach out, to be the light amidst the din of uncertainty. "Will we?" Thomas whispered, a tremor in his voice as he looked at his companions. "Will we embody that light in our most difficult moments? Or will we falter when faced with our doubts?" In that moment of breathless anticipation, each disciple felt a mingling of resolve and uncertainty. While they were drawn to the light before them, they wrestled with the shadows that lay ahead and the weight of collective purpose expanding against the backdrop of a waiting world. As they stood at the crossroads, the murmur of questions swirled in the air, mingling with the sounds of life around them. Would their unity empower them to shine brightly, even when darkness grazed their edges? And could they invite others to share in the flicker of hope they themselves carried? As the echoes of Thomas's question lingered in the air, the disciples shared searching glances, their hearts pulsing with the shared anxiety of the unknown. The elderly man on the ground remained still, as if caught in a moment frozen in time. The crowd, a living tapestry of bustling life, began to blur into the background, their individual stories overshadowed by the gravity of the moment before them. "Come," called Peter, moving towards the man with a firm resolve. "Let us not turn away from this moment. Our hands may be the ones that lift him." With this call to action, the others immediately followed, their trepidation mingling with a surge of purpose. "Why should we?" whispered Simon, glancing around cautiously at the gathering crowd. "What if our efforts met with scorn or ridicule? Because it is in these very choices that we embody his teachings," John replied, kneeling beside the man, examining his weary face. "Every act of compassion is a reflection of his love." He reached out, brushing the man's hand gently, warmth flowing through the connection, and as they gathered around him, Matthew then opened his heart further. "Each step we take toward kindness invites others to join this path. Perhaps, just perhaps, our witness will ripple throughout this city." The elderly man stirred, his eyes slowly fluttering open. Terra-cotta brown, they shone with an eternal depth. For a moment, the world fell away, lost in the gravity of his gaze. "Thank you," he whispered, hoarse yet somehow vibrant. "For seeing me." The simplicity of his acknowledgement struck them with reverence, a reminder of how easily humanity is overlooked in the flourishing chaos. As they helped him to his feet, the weight of his older frame urged them to grasp the depth of compassion that went beyond mere duty. The surrounding crowd began to gather, drawn in by the delicate gravity of the scene. The disciples found themselves moving under the watchful eyes of many, a mixture of admiration and skepticism. The air was dense with unvoiced questions, faith and doubt spiraled through each heart present. Suddenly, an unknown voice cut through the growing silence. "Who are you to play the Savior? What can you possibly offer that he has not already lost?" The speaker stood apart, a man clad in rich raiment, eyes narrowed with disdain. The disciples turned to face him, their unity trembling as they absorbed the challenge posed. Peter clenched his fists, but before he could speak, Matthew interceded, standing firm. "We are simply here to love. To offer extension, not judgment. To see and not pass by." A murmur coursed through the crowd, some nodding, others remaining steadfast in their skepticism. Torn between frustration and compassion, the atmosphere thickened, challenging the very essence of their mission. A gentle flame flickered in Thomas' heart, a realization forming. "In the struggle against doubt, we must embody the reality of our purpose," he said, lifting his chin toward the wealthy man, his sentiment earnest yet defiant. "True faith does not shy from the questions, nor does it dissolve in confrontation." As the tension expanded around them, a woman from the crowd stepped forward, her voice trembling yet fierce. "But how do we trust what we cannot see? Is love sufficient when despair abounds?" Her raw longing struck a chord of understanding within each disciple. How could they convince others to embrace this radical love when their own hearts were only beginning to grasp it? In that charged moment, Peter caught the eye of the elderly man, who stood with them as if anchored to their purpose. "It does not answer every question, nor banish every fear," the man spoke softly, words resonating with profound truth. "But it draws us closer to others. It coalesces our stories even amid uncertainty. It is a journey that leads us, hand in hand, through both light and shadow." As that acknowledgement settled upon the group, heavy yet liberating, the disciples were aware of the profound mystery enveloping them. They were stepping into vulnerability, and in opening their hearts, they created space for others. But a shadow lingered around their gathering. What trials lay ahead? Would their fragile consensus be tested as the realities of their faith emerged more starkly against the unyielding backdrop of the world? Questions loomed larger than answers as they stood in silent solidarity, contemplating the depth of their love for one another, for the man before them, and for the gathering crowd. In that moment of vulnerability, did they dare to believe they were equipped for what was to come? And in facing inevitable skepticism, how would they uphold their commitment to a love that transformed the very fabric of humanity? As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows that stretched across the cobbled streets of Jerusalem, the disciples knew they had crossed a threshold they could not uncross. The weight of doubt and uncertainty tightened around them, like chains made only of air, binding them to the uncertain future that lay ahead. Yet as they stood in the vibrant moment, with the elderly man at their side and the gathering crowd around them, an inevitable revelation began to stir in their hearts. "Brothers," Peter spoke, breaking through the heavy silence. "We may not have the luxury of comfort as we step into this unknown. But perhaps it is precisely in our discomfort that we will begin to understand the essence of the love we've been taught." His voice rang with conviction, an echo of the teachings they had received. John glanced at Peter, encouraged by his words, as he added, "Rather than flee from our shadows, let us lean into them. If we invite others on this journey with us, we will learn that our imperfections do not disqualify us from spreading light. Our very struggles can illuminate paths for those who wander." Inspired by this awakening connection, the elderly man nodded, a silent affirmation that the heart of their mission was to reflect love not just as an abstract ideal, but as a tangible force amidst tribulations. As tension simmered in the atmosphere, each disciple felt the flicker of resolve igniting once again within their hearts. The voice of the wealthy man shattered the moment. "Your intentions mean little, wandering souls. What you offer is a candle to the storm, easily extinguished." His smug demeanor triggered murmurs among the crowd, casting doubt on the fragile unity they had begun to build, but Peter stood firm. "Yet even the smallest of lights can pierce through the darkest night. We do not need to have all the answers to begin this journey. We are learning to carry one another through uncertainties, and today, love is the mission." The echo of love, a ripple of recognition glided through the crowd. Those once caught in the darkness began to turn toward the disciples, faces shifting from skepticism to curiosity. As Matthew stepped forward, he spoke with a softness that resonated deeply in the hearts of all who listened. "Our strength lies not in perfection, nor in unwavering certainty. It lies in our willingness to be vulnerable. To encounter our fears and still choose to stand together, shoulder to shoulder." A murmur of agreement formed among the people, and as the word settled, the elderly man turned toward the questioning voice of the crowd. "I have felt the shadows of isolation lost, invisible, and unseen. But as these disciples have offered their hands to lift me up, I have felt a flicker of hope reborn. We do not stand apart, we are created to walk alongside one another." The crowd, now pulled closer by a shared yearning for connection, began whispering stories of their own struggles, shadows that intertwined seamlessly with the light the disciples sought to embody. In that moment amidst the unfolding chaos, Thomas felt a wave of understanding wash over him. What if our greatest revelation is not the absence of doubt, but rather, the resilience that blooms from embracing it? Emerge in the light we reflect, together, healed by the act of loving despite uncertainties. The weight of his words hung in the air, lingering as the disciples stood as one. They understood now, their connection had become a mirror reflecting the depth of the community around them, their hearts thrumming in harmony with the pulse of those they reached. As night began to descend, the once hesitant crowd now encircled the disciples, a tapestry woven from faith, doubt, and shared humanity. The questions that had once loomed over them began to twist into whispered expressions of hope. "Together, we journey through shadows," James proclaimed, his voice steady. "Let us nurture this light so that it embodies our commitment to each other and to the core of his teachings." And in unison, the disciples intertwined their voices, saying, "May our hearts become a sanctuary, a refuge for the lost, the broken, and the weary." As they shared stories, laughter, and the vulnerability of their experiences, the atmosphere transformed. No longer were they a band of doubtful souls, they had become a community reflecting the very essence of love they had witnessed through Jesus, the willingness to embrace complexity and be steadfast in their pursuit of hope. Gradually, a profound transformation unfolded within the crowd and among the disciples. Their shadows dissolved into whispers of possibility, frailty morphed into a collective strength, sparking the realization that they were here to build bridges, not walls. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a kaleidoscope of colors across the sky, Peter launched forth with a newfound fervor. "Let love become our anthem, not just in moments of joy, but in the depths of our despair. May our song echo through the streets, resonating with hearts longing for grace." In that decisive moment, a surge of unity grasped them all, a collective promise to walk together through the light and the shadow, embracing not only their journeys but the sacred stories of those they encountered. As the disciples stepped forth into the dawning night of Jerusalem, an understanding washed over them, a vision that transcended mere words or expectations. They were resplendent, not just as bearers of a message but as living embodiments of the transformative power of love. And in that shared venture, they realized, they were now part of something greater than themselves. In this profound evolution emerged a singular, irrevocable truth: to embrace faith is to stand resolute in mystery, honoring doubt as a companion on the journey rather than a foe to be feared. Perhaps the shadows spoke volumes, revealing the depths of grace that lay flush against their very hearts. The culmination of their doubts had intertwined, giving rise to a light that would ripple through the world they were about to encounter, and as they ventured forth, the final echoes of whispered prayers rose from their minds and hearts. Steadfast faith pressed against the uncertainty, of prayer that would linger beyond the walls of Jerusalem and into the hearts of those yearning for connection. May we dare to believe, even in the shadows,